of iron tore the spirit to achieve. With calloused hands they mold the molten flow. Their faces etched with sweat, their hearts aglow. Industrial souls forged in
Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Industrial Souls. And today we have the privilege of being joined by Meaghan Ziemba. And I know many of you know Meaghan and have seen Meaghan out there because she's very visible in the LinkedIn space. She's a storyteller, a marketer, a woman in manufacturing, a podcaster, and general badass. So you're in for a treat. This is going to be a fun show. She's also just fun to talk to. So hang in there because things are about to get industrial. Meaghan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Can I just compliment your intro music and your whole production? Like, that was awesome. I'm super pumped now. And I saw Nikki Gonzalez and Lisa on there as well. So I'm super pumped now and jazzed.
Yeah, you know some of these people. Yeah, I always put people into my title thing, and as time goes on, you move around in there and you get at least kind of like eight visibilities in different episodes. But yeah, I think that's kind of fun just to keep the faces in there, right? It's all about the human element, right? Mm-hmm. Getting to know the people and the faces. And actually, because I get a lot of recommendations for guests from previous guests, then a lot of you know each other, right? So it's like the women in manufacturing circle is actually really tight. You guys are all, you're big promoters of each other. And I'm going to ask you about that a little later. So we'll hold the segue, put a pin in that for a second. But just to get started, well, before I even get started, anybody who's out there in TV land, if you're watching this on LinkedIn Live, you can write comments in the comments and say hi, or say Meaghan's awesome, or ask a question, or whatever you want to do. And your interactivity only makes the episode more fun for me. So that's reason enough to do it, right? No. Oh, wait, we already have one. Look at this. Ask and you shall receive. Lisa Goodman says,
hi, Lisa.
Yes, to women in manufacturing. All right. So at any time you can just throw a comment in there and we'll see it. So Meaghan, thanks for joining me again. And why don't you give us a little background for people who might not know you, who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Yeah, so I am an industrial tech writer by trade. I've been writing for manufacturing since 2008. I started out at a media trade publication in Madison, Wisconsin, and I got addicted to writing stories about engineers and manufacturers because I just thought it was the coolest thing that these individuals took whatever was going on inside their head and made all these really cool products that help make our lives easier. And I just thought it was fascinating because I never knew that type of world existed. So when I was in high school, I was always encouraged to do something English related because I tested better in English than I did in anything else.
Me too.
And the career pathways that were suggested to me didn't really sound exciting. So I'm more on the free-spirited side. So I completely fell into this industry by accident and I love it. I tried something else after about 7 years at the trade publication. I went into a marketing position for a liberal arts college and it was just really boring to me. So I've spent some time in different manufacturing facilities in their marketing department. and really help them establish their brand voice and develop stories around the technologies that they were using and the processes they were using and the products they were building. And I also got involved with trade show event planning, which was really fun, and had the opportunity to go to different trade shows and learn how setup took place and what engineers prepped for with their demos and how sales people talked about the products to really pull people in. And it was just a really fun position. And then fast forward to 2020, when the pandemic hit, that's when I started Zing Solutions. So that is my writing service company. And then about a few months later, when the pandemic hit, I started Mavens of Manufacturing. And I've been interviewing women all over the sector doing different things in hopes of inspiring younger girls to join this sector, because one of the common denominators that I've been hearing throughout my interviews is that a lot of women kind of fell into this by accident. And most of the women that I know now, what our goal is to really drive people to pursue these pathways purposefully and unapologetically. So it's been a lot of fun.
Lisa throws another high into the mix. Yeah, so I know you're a big with your Mavens of Manufacturing and just in general a big proponent of the women in manufacturing. And like we put a pin in at the beginning of the discussion, I guess why don't you tell me more about, I guess, what do you see as the challenges that women are facing in manufacturing, for one, and two, why should more women get involved in the whole industrial sector?
Yeah. So when I started Mavens back in 2020, there was a lot of conversations happening on LinkedIn because people were going to social media to maintain their sanity, because we were all isolated at that point. We really couldn't interact with one another. And one of the things I noticed was there were a lot of conversations happening, but it was mostly guys. And not to like push y'all out, but there is a different perspective with the women involved.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm not trying to push you out, but I would reach out to them and I would say, hey, there's these women that are doing some amazing things and they might have, some thoughts around what you're talking about. You should invite them. And they never did. So I was like, well, screw it. I'll just start Mavens of Manufacturing. And I didn't want to be another women empowerment movement type of brand. There's a lot of organizations out there that are saying women in whatever. And one of the things I did notice were there were some ladies taking the word Mavens and attaching it to whatever they were doing. And Mavens is a gender neutral word that means connoisseur or expert in something. And it focuses on skill set. So I was like, oh, this will be really cool. And it just, it took off from there. I made an announcement, I want to say back in November or December of 2020, and I booked out shows until April of the following year. And I had nothing set up at the time. But the thing that was interesting during COVID is there were women in different regions around the United States, even around the world, that were going through struggles of being the only one in whatever industry they were serving. So like they either were working at a company or they were going to school somewhere and they were the only one or one of like 3 or 4. And that kind of created isolation with them to begin with. And then when COVID happened, we all started connecting with one another and we're like, oh, wait, we're not the only one. There actually are other women doing some of the similar things that we're doing in this community. And we started talking about the challenges that we were facing within the industry. So not being able to use our voice, getting talked over, asking to take notes or kind of play this internship position of getting everybody coffee, not having our ideas and thoughts really heard, having certain things said to us that shouldn't be said in a work environment, being told that we should have thick skin because this is just the way the industry was and has always been, and we just need to get over it. Not really knowing the ins and outs of the business to give us an opportunity to actually move up the ladder in our careers, and not being invited to certain types of conversations because it wasn't even thought of. Like I talked to one woman and she was part of a manufacturing company. And when she first started, one of the gentlemen that she knew had a retirement party and she didn't know about it because it was being discussed in their Slack communication platform. And the guy was like, well, aren't you part of it? And she goes, no, I'm not part of that Slack communication. And she's like, it wasn't that they meant to like intentionally keep me out of it. They just didn't think of, oh, she's new, let's add her to this communication platform. So I think there's different challenges and different areas of manufacturing, and even in different communities, there are some areas that are doing better than other communities. So it's been this slow process of moving forward. But now that all of us have kind of come together on social media platforms, you are seeing this shift where women aren't really being competitive with one another like they were in the old days. We're actually coming together and supporting one another. We're sending referrals out for each other. We're connecting each other to other opportunities. So we're actually coming together and uplifting each other and really encouraging to step out of our comfort zones and take risk and pursue opportunities we normally didn't think were available to us to begin with. And I think you're starting to see a shift in younger generations now too, where younger women are pursuing these opportunities on purpose. Like they're interested in working with their hands and building things and solving problems and working with teams to critically think about solutions that are going to make all of our lives easier. So it's a really fun and exciting time to be in this space. And I think women should join this space because there's a lot of opportunities for us to use a lot of our multitasking features, a lot of our problem solving. It's a very creative place. There's a lot of opportunity to build meaningful connections and relationships. And we're just natural, emotionally intelligent beings because of who we are. So I think there's space for that as well too, because we're able to understand other people's emotions and feelings and bring them together in a constructive way. So we have a lot of good things to bring to the sector, and we have a lot of experiences just being who we are that could help look at things in a different perspective. So like I was at an event and one woman joked about how the gas pedal was designed by a guy because most women have to kick off their high heels in order to drive a car if they're wearing high heels, or switch out their shoes, because there's no way you can drive a car with a high heel on. And if a woman designed it, maybe we could keep our high heels on and still drive a car. So funny things like that we bring up and talk about.
No, okay. You gave me several excellent points that I want to jump off on. That was all very well stated. But I have to say, though, on your gas pedal item, cars were designed by guys with small feet. I will add that as an additional, not only just guys, but guys with tiny feet. Because I'm telling you, when I get into the car, half the time I have to take my shoes off because it's impossible for me to step on the gas pedal and not also step on the brake pedal, because they're so close together and the gas pedal's so freaking tiny. So whoever designed that whole thing was just a bonehead anyways. Some guy with
supersized pedal.
Some guy with teeny feet designed that whole system. Actually, there's two things I wanted to bring up. I'm going to go off of something you said first, because something you just said also tied into two different things that I think you posted about. I'm trying to weave a thread here through three different concepts. So if I don't get there, I'll just pick one. But you talked about, unique strengths of women, and you brought up multitasking and emotional intelligence and maybe community, like a community drive. I don't know what a good word for that. You said it better than I'm trying to say it. But like that community building quality that I think comes easier to women. And I wanted to just tie that into like how marketing is changing and how industry is changing. In a post you recently just put out there about your personal brand, this is like your most recent post, I think. Isn't it? Except the one about my show. Thank you very much. It was like, you need to be building your brand. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to weave this all together into this concept of what I see recently, and I think it's going to be really important this year, is that people want to see and want to know and want to interact with humans in in the in the social space, kind of like what you talked about, how you ladies were on LinkedIn, you get together, you start building networks,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. Um, I think all of business is kind of shifting in that direction, actually, that we need to be more personally engaged as brand representatives,
Mhm.
or just as human beings, more visible, more community oriented, more human, more out there. Um, so I just wanted to, that isn't a question, but it's really just like, well, I guess drill into that a little more. What do you think about that? Because I think what you're tapping into is that same vibe. And I do think ladies in particular, and maybe I'm just generalizing, so I'm totally wrong, but tend to be more social and have those kind of skill sets to a better degree, I think, than a lot of guys. But I think business in general and industry in specific really needs to grow in this area. So I think there's
Yeah.
actually a ton of opportunity there for ladies, but for anybody to get out into that. I guess
Yeah.
being out there more.
Well,
What are your
and
thoughts?
you have to look at too how things were traditionally done when they were like in siloed departments and highly competitive. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with competition because I come from a sports background. Like I'm extremely competitive, but I also know what it's like to be on a team and work with like the player that you were always trying to beat out. So I did basketball, softball, volleyball, and track. And some of those are based on your own individual challenges and goals, like what you're trying to accomplish. Like I've always wanted to be the best player. And now I'm in CrossFit, which is another beast in itself. But I've always had my own personal goals of like, okay, who's better than me and how do I catch up with them or get right behind them? Because that's the only way that you can really improve your own personal growth is if you look at someone who's very similar to what you're doing and then you either try to get next to them or beat them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, having that healthy competition. But when everything becomes a secret sauce or something that only is part of a company and you keep these secrets,
Right.
it's really hard for people to trust what you're doing and who you are. So like back in the day, nobody wanted to share what was wrong with their processes or where their
Right.
failures were or what they messed up on. Nobody wanted to keep the bad reviews out in the open and available for the public to see. Like I worked
Right.
with companies where they had someone hired to actually delete those negative reviews and comments. And instead of engaging in conversation and taking that as an opportunity to improve, they kind of buried it in the closet, where now you're seeing this shift where it's like, no, we're all human, we all make mistakes, everything's out there. And I think people are getting tired of, I don't want to use this term, but fake news. I think people are getting tired of that and
Yeah.
they want that real relationship. So there are the ups and downs of technology. Like, yes, technology connects us, but it also disconnects us to a point. And when you're in a business relationship, like, if you think about blue collar workers, and I know some people don't like using that term blue collar, but if you think about a long time ago when companies like people went to work so that they could provide for their family, there was a lot of pride that they put into the stuff that they were creating. And, good leaders and bosses at that time who went around the facility to talk about all of their employees' families and they knew each other by first name, that really meant a lot. Well, it also means a lot to the consumer. So if you have a really great company culture where your employees are empowered to do good work and they're treated like humans, they're going to be more productive and produce better quality products and services. And that works so well for the consumer. So consumers want to see that company culture. They want to see who your good salespeople are. They want to see who your
Right.
good machinists are. So I just feel like the reason why these connections are so important is because there is this fear with everything being automated and AI, and it's taking our jobs over. They don't care about human beings anymore, when that's not the case at all. So we really have to work together as an industry to educate the general public and tell them why these things are important and why they're moving into our processes and systems, and still have that connection with our communities as well as with our employees.
Yeah, totally 100% agree. And think, people buy from other people, regardless of how complex that sales process is.
Yeah.
It's always humans. And, that's not going to change. I mean, there's always, we're obviously a critical part of the equation. And I think now more than ever, it's becoming, like you said, I also think because of the AI, because of automation, because of the increasing disconnectedness just in general in our own communities, in our own neighborhoods. Like, you may not even be connected. You may not even know the guy across the street, one house over to the left. It's like, I don't even know who that is. We're increasingly so disconnected that we need to build these connections. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that has to be part of it.
Mm-hmm. And you don't see that anymore where, and maybe this is just me personally, but I remember moving into a couple different neighborhoods, and I remember one person coming over and knocking on my door and giving me a plate of food. And I'm like, wow, this is old school. Like, this doesn't happen anymore. And it was really good food. And she's like, I just want to welcome you to the neighborhood. If you ever need anything or have questions, feel free to contact me. And that doesn't happen as much anymore. And I know there's a lot of conversation around trade shows and the ROI that they provide for businesses, because some of them are getting up there in prices, and like, it can be a little bit ridiculous for the ROI for some of these companies. And there's some big corporations that go all out on how much money they spend, but I still feel like they're important, and maybe not so much the larger ones, but I know the smaller ones have a lot of meaning because companies will flock there, and it's that one-on-one personal connection that they're making with their consumers. So I don't think trade shows are going to go away anytime soon. Maybe they'll shift a little bit where, I don't know, the content's a little bit different or the goal is a little bit different, but I just feel like that opportunity to meet someone and shake their hand and pick up their energy and their vibes is still really important for that business relationship. So I don't think those are going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it is super important to combine the in-person event. I think what's changed is you don't need to do that every day. You can do that once a year, and then you can do all the other stuff every day. But we got a little pile up of comments, so I'm going to bring them up here real quick. Lisa again. Sorry, I can't read it with my old eyes. To Meaghan's point, gatekeeping is not the way. Building in public and sharing your lessons and flaws is refreshing. It is. Women are simply smarter than men, and they are in many ways. And we need to accept this and be grateful for their presence in industry and in every other facet of life, I would add. Yes. And Hank, always love hearing from Meaghan. Yeah.
Tell the girls I said hi. He has 2 daughters that he has the hashtag junior board of directors for. And they're coming to Automate this year. And the only reason why I'm going to Automate this year is to meet them.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cute. That's a good story.
Yeah. Super excited about it.
Yeah.
And, I do think women are smarter in certain areas than men and vice versa. So I don't. But I do have a joke. So
tell me.
This was so I grew up Roman Catholic. And this was a joke that I want to say a nun or a priest told me. But what did God say after he made man?
I don't know.
He took a step back, looked him up and down, and was like, I can do better.
Nice.
So
yeah.
Hopefully that didn't offend anybody. I just thought it was funny because it's
no. It is funny. Yeah. No, I mean, we're definitely, males and females are definitely wired different. We bring different strengths and weaknesses to the table. And,
But
you know,
that's why we
there's,
need to work together to advance this industry.
well, there's a reason why civilization has been built over thousands of years on the backs of families. There's a reason why that is the core nucleus of all society. You know, there is unique strengths that come from both sides, and you know, you need both in the mix to
100%.
yeah, to not like veer over to the left or right, or not being political there, just not to veer off the road in any direction, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, strengths together are definitely good. Chris has a 29-year-old daughter who works for a
Oh,
large agency. I'm humbled when I'm in the same room with her. Oh, yeah.
that's awesome. I'm down
Yeah.
the road from Chicago. I'm in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I have a 21-year-old daughter too, and she is absolutely amazing. Of course, my wife is there. I don't know why in the industry, you know, I guess it's just history. You know, industry is one of those things that has a lot of history, and most of the industry's problems are 50 years of doing it that way. Like is the
Mhm.
like major, I feel like, thing that's holding industry back in so many areas. Not every area. There's a lot of high tech stuff and brand new ways of thinking happening in industry, but there's a lot of places where you go in and it's like, okay, we're going back to 1950, and everything is still running like it used to. And this is just another area where we need to learn and do things differently.
Mm-hmm. Change is scary for a lot of people.
It is.
Yeah.
It's scary for
Unite.
everybody. Yeah. On this topic still, not to keep beating this one, but you do have an upcoming conference that you're doing in just a couple of weeks. So I want to give you a chance to plug that if you want to talk about it real quick.
Yeah. So I was invited to the Women in Manufacturing first conference for Men as Allies conference. I'm super excited. I've been a member of that organization for like the last 3 or 4 years, and it's just a really cool organization. Allison founded it 15 years. So this year's their 15th year anniversary. They also have their national summit in Chicago this year. So I'm really excited to attend that. And it's just an opportunity for women and men in the industry to come together and talk about, you know, how can we advance women in their careers? What are some of the challenges they're still facing? What are some of the cool things they're doing within the industry? So they have a lot of large corporate sponsors that support this organization. And I think over the last 2 years, they just started building out international chapters. So it's not just in the United States, it's actually around the world. But this specific conference is going to tip our hats off to all of the men allies, because a lot of us have been able to progress forward with the support and help of the men that are in our lives. And, you know, we wouldn't be able to pursue some of these things if we didn't have that encouragement and that support and that mentorship from our men allies. So I'm actually going to be moderating a panel with 3 women in the industry, and we're going to be talking about breaking barriers. So they're just going to talk about some of the challenges that they faced, who their mentors were, what some of their main inspiration was going through their career, and how they were able to build that resilience and grit to get to the level that they're at as women leaders in the space. So I can't wait. It's going to be in Florida, so I'm super excited. They were like, well, it might just be 40 degrees here. And I'm like, it's warmer there still in the Midwest. So I'm super excited to put my feet in the sand, connect with some amazing women and men in the space, and moderate that panel. It's going to be super fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun, and yeah, a good weather change for you too. On top of it, yeah.
And then I'm going to Austin, Texas for the Industrial Marketing Summit, and I'll be speaking on a panel there about, you know, how you can use your branding and your marketing to recruit the next generation into the manufacturing workforce. So super excited. I'll be on the panel with Jacob Sanchez and Mary Jesuits. And Yeah, Jetsu. And it's funny because I'm actually the oldest person on the panel. So I've actually made that shift of being one of the youngest to now the oldest.
You can still pass for one of the youngest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So super
Well, that's
excited about that.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, you got some good stuff coming up. One thing I always try to get to with all my guests, just to kind of not talk shop, but just talk, personally is, besides just a desire to help other ladies in manufacturing or whatever, I mean, what is it that's in you, do you think, that powers you to do all these things that you're doing, whether it's writing or podcasting or doing a panel or whatever it is that you're doing? What is the, I guess, inner thing in you that is the reason, or your why, as they would say?
Yeah, so I had my daughter at a young age. I was 20 when I had her, and I am a complete introvert. I was very insecure and lacked all the confidence in the world. But after I had her, I didn't
Introverts
want
unite. Sorry.
I didn't want her to go through the same struggles that I went through of like establishing myself and speaking up for myself and sharing my opinion. So as I got more involved with this stuff, and when I started Maven's, I was completely shocked how big of a difference Maven's made in some other women's lives. Like I get text messages all the time of thank yous and, you really inspired me to step out of my comfort zone. I don't know what I would have done without your stories that you're sharing. Like I've always doubted myself. So it's really my kids and just other people in general. Like it's really refreshing to see my daughter attack life the way that she's attacking it. Like she's a bigger risk taker than I am. And she told me not too long ago, she's just like, I'm really proud of what you're doing. And she's like, you're making a difference. And she's like, I want to thank you because I don't think I would be able to do some of the stuff I'm doing if I didn't have you as a role model. So I will continue to always do my best and put my best foot forward because she is watching me. My two boys are watching me. And there's little girls out there who are watching me. Hank's daughters are two examples of younger girls that are watching me. And I don't want to let anyone down. Like that's always in the back of my mind. Like, oh, I'm going to let these people down if I don't do this.
Mm.
So I just want to show people that yes, things can get scary. But if you don't take that first step, if you don't take that risk, you might miss out on the ride of your life if you don't pursue something that scares the heck out of you. So it's all of that that's motivating me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Out there being a good example for the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. Our time is more or less up. If people want to find you, Meaghan, where should they go?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way to get a hold of me. Otherwise, if you want to go to YouTube and subscribe to Mavens of Manufacturing on YouTube, you can catch all of the stories that I've done over the last 4 years. Some of the earliest stories I've had are with actual Rosie the Riveters and some of their daughters and granddaughters. So be sure to check out those episodes because those women are awesome. Like I don't know if they're still around because they were in their 90s when I interviewed them.
Right.
But they are awesome, awesome ladies that opened a lot of doors for us. So really appreciated their time.
Yeah, really the first women in manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for being a part of my show. It was great chatting with you again, as always. And everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. For those who commented, thanks for participating. And we will catch you next time.